Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 153 on scavengerlife.com. We're talking about what's going on in our store this week.
Yep. And just to remind people who might be coming to this for the first time, this is a podcast where Ryan and I talk about us selling on eBay. It's more about like the lifestyle of selling on eBay, although then all the details are involved in that. But, we find that talking about the lifestyle is most important because, you can sell one thing on eBay, you get it. It's tougher, I think. The challenge is how do you do that consistently over time? So that's what we like to talk about.
Yes.
And so this is where we just talk about our week.
And right now we're in a hotel right next to the airport in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
So we're leaving tomorrow.
I feel like some weird gypsy. We're just like...
We've moved like so many times in this month to different places to stay. So this is our last...
Yep.
Our last night.
Yeah, and we have a bunch of bags of stuff that we've bought here, so we're like fully loaded down.
Yeah, because so as we mentioned before, when you take an international flight, you can have two very heavy bags. The airline we're going on gives you a 50-pound bag each for free, which is amazing at this point in airline travel. So because we have been scavenging, we do have two. They're about 40 pounds each. And I know that because I have a luggage scale that I brought with me this time. It's very helpful to not go over. So we have this big wooden, like, painter's suitcase that Jay found on the sidewalk.
Yeah, those small wood boxes that have paints in them. Well, I found the big one.
Like a suitcase size one.
It's really awesome. I mean, it's definitely, I wouldn't call it antique, but it's definitely like vintage old. But it looks cool. It's got that style that like someone would definitely want, like authentic.
We got a lot of stares because we're using it as a suitcase essentially. So anytime we like move our baggage, people are like, "What is that?" It's not a regular suitcase. It's got paint all over it.
I just tell people I'm a painter, and they're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, because it's very bizarre.
You weird American.
So that's kind of a fun thing to bring home.
Yeah. Along
with all the stuff we bought in that video, in that I Holland video.
Yeah. But really, this week, we talked about in last podcast that we were going to work. The whole purpose of coming to Amsterdam is we had a job for 1 week, and that's what we did. And
video job.
We only worked. We worked 12-hour days.
You can probably hear it in Jay's voice. On the very last day, he started to get a cold. I just think it's just long days. They're stressful days.
I was very sick. It's yesterday, just lying in bed with a head cold.
Yeah, he was not doing well. Although you're better today, so thank God for that.
I was very proud of you.
You're proud of me?
During the week. It's you really... I don't think, we don't really talk about our other life, but you're very good at what you do.
Well, thank you.
Managing and... organizing and all of it's your technical skills.
Yeah, I think I thrive in the troubleshooting, like technical video problems. I'm very good at that. It does stress me out, and you've seen me at other events where I've almost been in tears because things go wrong and I'm scared.
My skill comes in is that I like to manage and keep things very calm.
And get the answers and the help you need from other people.
Yeah.
I hate doing that. I hate being like, what's going on? Who's doing this? Like, I just want to be at the computer doing the technical stuff because I'm very good at that. So,
but I think that's why our eBay store does well because really it's the same kind of skills.
It's organization.
Yep. And putting your head down and just getting it done. And, thinking through the issues. And, when I see people write in or see people talk on blogs about them having problems on eBay, I just think, really, eBay is just like any job. And if you have a problem, if you don't have those skills somewhere else, you aren't going to have them on eBay or,
Like, you mean like... Right, so organizational skills and motivational...
Like if someone is coming to eBay because they have a hard time working somewhere else or, they have all these problems in their life and everything's a mess. And, and eBay is going to be the thing to, like, save them. I'm just like, eBay is just...
It's another way of working.
It's just another thing.
Yeah.
So you just, if you aren't organized in your regular life, you probably won't be organized doing eBay. Or if you aren't motivated doing other kinds of work, you won't be motivated doing this.
I think it's interesting because I find that being a freelancer, you have to hustle for work. You have to do the work you said you were going to do in a timely manner. Yeah. And if you don't, your reputation is like instantly ruined. Right. And I've seen other freelancers do that where they're doing video production and they never get the video to the client ever. And you're like, how do you have a reputation? It's the same with eBay. You don't deliver your item. Your items are consistently broken or bad quality. You don't list, so you don't make any money. Like, if you're not a worker, none of this will work for you.
Yeah. So this week, we haven't done anything on eBay. So we
not a single listing.
Listed. We obviously haven't shipped because we've been gone.
We've only been communicating with buyers.
Yeah, we've just been taking offers and answering its questions. That's again the great thing. I can be in the middle of another job, but I can.
You have your phone.
I always have a moment to check my phone and answer things right away.
And people are funny because it says we're away on our listings, and people ask questions, and we get back to them right away, and they're like, wow, thanks for getting back to me. It's kind of nice that people recognize that, know?
I mean, if we've talked about this, it's very strange. We will try and buy something on eBay, send a question, and sometimes it doesn't get answered, or sometimes it might take them 5 days to answer back. And by that time,
you bought something else.
I bought something else.
Yeah, exactly. So
we sold 45 items. We made about $1,800.
We took a lot of offers. But, this is feeling like holiday season to us, where we're, we made about $250 a day, which is... Yeah, that is the good numbers.
Much better from the summertime months.
Yeah, which were dreadful. Everybody said it. I've heard it from so many people. Summer was dreadful on every platform.
And I'm hoping eBay is like it is in past it's Christmas times, where we start to make like $300 and $400 a day, or $500 and $600 sometimes
a day. That happens where constantly the phone is just going cha-ching, cha-ching all day long. It's a great feeling.
Well, like it's last night, it's definitely been kind of up and down, but it's last night we sold 11 items in one day.
Right. So that was during the day in the U.S., but it was nighttime. We were asleep. We woke up. I think we woke up at like 5 a.m. just randomly, and just my phone was covered in, alerts. So that's always like great to see.
Yeah. But, again, this is why we like to have that big inventory, because we haven't
done anything on eBay for like 6 weeks, and we've sold consistently as if we were.
So we have about 175 items that have to get shipped.
God!
When we get back.
And a few of them are from Bonanza.
But that's good. So
that's a lot.
In 5 weeks we've sold, and that's about right, because we sell about 35 items a week. Again, we have no control over this. It just strangely seems to keep the same its numbers. So 35 items, 5 weeks, about 175 items.
Right. Yep. That sounds right.
It's nice. I really do wonder. There was a person on the blog, Scavenger, who said, I don't know if it's a he or she, said that they were moving somewhere else, but they kept their store open where they used to live and someone was going to sell, but they were not going to add any more items, and they were just going to let that store just kind of sell until they sold everything.
Right.
So I wonder what it would be like if we never listed an item again. Like, how long would our store, at 3,400 items, like how long would it continue to produce? Sell. Like, at what point would it start to go down.
Right, like no sales are happening. Okay, so something that we sold that was actually pretty amazing. Over the summertime, I found 3 sets of napkin rings, and they were Thanksgiving napkin rings, like little turkeys and little like autumn leaves and stuff. So I broke them up into 3 sets. I sold them each for about $40 each, and they all sold this week. So that was a total of like $140 for 3 sets of those. I think I paid not more than $10 for all those. So that's a pretty amazing sale. And usually we don't sell stuff like seasonally on purpose. I just happened to find these this summer. So people are clearly buying them for Thanksgiving.
And people were definitely giving us offers on them as low offers, but we knew if we held out that they would get bought at the price we wanted.
Yeah, because, I mean, I don't do a big Thanksgiving dinner, but my mom always has. So I know there are people that do, like, the decorating for Thanksgiving, and they'll have, like, the big dinner, and they might have 2 big dinners, and I'm like, these will sell. So that was a great find.
And then we sold another one of these old, like, Persian rugs. I mean, and it was in rough shape. I mean, people who have heard this podcast, I mean, have probably seen the photos we've posted. Will find these old rugs, and this one hadn't been that big, maybe, I forgot how big
I
it was.
don't know, 4x8 or something.
It wasn't even that big.
Yeah.
Tattered and thread worn, and we sold it for $250.
Yep, and I had it up for $400. So we took an offer, but if you look on Urban Outfitters or IKEA or West Elm, you know, if you look up distressed Persian rug, that is like the style.
I mean, they make new ones to look distressed.
Right.
And so if you have one that's really actually old, people
it's worth
love
more.
them. Yeah.
Although $250 is a little bit lower than I would have liked, but honestly, like, this design I didn't think was as pretty as some of the other ones, so we were like, cool.
And plus, we're kind of in that mode right now where we're willing just to sell everything.
We just want to move stuff.
And again, I mean, you guys just know this, if you buy something for $1, like, if you can get $250 for it,
You're
it's
doing
just like,
so
yeah,
well.
I mean, I'm not going to cry about that.
It's funny because being here, we on the TV, there's BBC One and BBC Two in the hotel rooms. And on BBC Two, there's like a million shows about buying and selling antiques. And the profit they make, like just regular people, is so low compared to like what we're doing.
Yeah, it's strange. They do these shows. I'm sure they have them in America too, but we don't watch, or we don't have cable TV, so we don't watch these kind of shows. But you know, where they'll go to like an antique mall,
Right.
and they'll buy things, and they pay like $50 for them, and then they go to an auction and sell them. And if they make any money at all, they make like $10. It's strange.
The model is so weird because you're gonna pay the most money at an antique mall or whatever because those people know what they have. Those people are professionals.
Yeah, they're the ones that probably bought stuff at an auction at cheap prices to then resell to collectors.
So it's a really weird model to watch those shows because it's like they're literally doing the opposite of what you should be doing.
Well, you know, and there's Antique, it's Roadshow here, the original over in England. You know, people will bring these really cool objects, and, you know, the guy will tell them, like, this whole history and all that, and then he'll say, oh, it's worth, like, $50. And I'm just like, we find stuff like that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what's funny is we can make such... you think that these professionals, like, in quotes, you know, professional antique people, you know, they're evaluating these things, and they're like, yeah, it's worth $50. Well, they paid $100 for it. And so they're going to be down $50. I'm like, wow, I never would have done that. That's way too much money for something like that,
right.
You know?
I think the other thing, too, is something we learned because we recently went to a couple auction houses to try and sell some things through the auction house.
Yes. We talked about this before,
yeah. Yeah, just as kind of an experiment. And we realized, like, that these auction houses don't know anymore. I mean, no longer do they have some kind of specialized knowledge. They basically looked at our stuff, tried to see if there was like a name on it or a brand or, you know, a painter's name. And then they go and they looked at, I mean, they literally,
Google it.
They literally told us that. They were just like, they wrote down some info. They said, hang on. They go to a desk. They do some searches on the internet. And then they come back and none of our stuff had like fancy names on it. So they were like, we aren't interested. And I think that's a thing. Like, you know, the stuff that we sell often won't have a name. It's just cool.
It's a quality item. It's a beautiful item, especially with art. You know, it might be some grandma that learned oil painting, but it's a great painting, great frame, would look beautiful in someone's bedroom. That's all that matters.
And so I feel like those auction houses, they're really focused on collectors who are trying to buy very certain kind of things.
Sure.
Artist names, different kinds of pottery that has a name on it. They aren't good at selling the kind of stuff that we do.
Sell. Yeah.
And we get profits like they get, you know.
Right, or better.
Right.
Because, you know, if you brought that stuff to, like, the auction house in D.C., some of the stuff we have, they were like, we can't even sell this in our, like, junkie auction.
I could never take that junky, it's rug,
right,
and take it to an auction house and sell it. They would laugh at me.
They would be like, you're going to get $10 for this.
But I can put it on the internet and sell it for $250 because we know...
We know the style.
There's a style to it.
Right.
You know?
There are certain people who want that look, who are looking for that look on the internet, not at the, you know, auction on a Tuesday morning in downtown DC.
Yeah. So that's why, you know, anyone out there, you really have to learn to trust your own judgment.
I think that's a big part of doing eBay with antique and vintage items is over time, you just get more confident because you've seen it before, you've researched it, you've sold it before, like the rugs. The first rug I sold, I was amazed. I sold it for like $90 for this ratty.
It sold within 2 minutes of putting it
it was
up.
Like literally 5 minutes later.
And that's where it made us feel like, oh shit,
oops, it should have been worth more. But now I will always, always, always buy rugs. Always. If I can afford it and think I can make more money, if they're wool, I will always buy them.
Right. And it's one of those items, too, where, like, the people who put them on a sale at estate sales or yard sales, they don't know it's worth more. They think it's just a crappy rug.
Yeah, because a lot of people see those, you know, imitation rugs that are acrylic and they look fancy, but they're just like, whatever, my grandma had that in her house forever, it's all dirty. And you're like, well, this one's actually wool. You know, This is actually a quality one.
Right, so I mean, I think my point is like, that's where people like us scavengers come in because we find those, I guess it's basically arbitrage, you know, where like the people who sell the thing don't know its value, but the people who buy it will buy it for more, and then we're the ones that, you know, find it in between points.
Exactly.
At some point, maybe this will become more common, it's knowledge, and you won't be able to buy these old rugs, you know?
Yeah. They are hard because people do think they're worth a lot. Like in Amsterdam, when we try to buy rugs, they are pricey. Generally, because they know, I mean, they're closer to the Middle East, so they're like, no, I know that's worth something, you know? But actually, we're talking about rugs forever, but we went to IKEA in Amsterdam, and they have a whole section of Persian, Middle Eastern, Indian rugs that they don't have, very expensive, beautiful.
That's kind of how it's nerdy we are. I wanted to go to the IKEA here in Amsterdam just to see if they sold different kinds of stuff than they do in America. And they do. They have like different kinds of furniture and rugs, and that's fun for us. And then you can eat some meatballs, and they had like a cappuccino machine.
The lovely thing, the great thing about the cafe is they have cappuccino machine. It's not just like regular coffee.
All you can drink.
You can get beer and wine. That's like obviously so European. They're like, yeah, obviously you're gonna drink a beer at lunch. So that's funny.
And then, just an update. You know, we sold a painting last week for $650. We took an offer, and it was just someone overseas.
It was global shipping. It was someone in Malta. I didn't think that was covered, but it was. But he didn't want to pay the import fees, as we've all talked about. So he was actually able to, I asked him to change his address in eBay to an address in the U.S., he changed it, and then he was able to request an invoice, and that kicked it out of global shipping. So that was very helpful.
And it's easy. It's for us because we just send it to
New York. New York. It was in New York. So that's great. That's very easy for us.
But that's always a nerve-wracking thing on a large or an expensive item. It's like that. Like, will the buyer do the extra work to actually finish the sale? And he did, so it was good.
So he did pay, and now I just have to ship it and get it delivered to his apartment. So that's very awesome. Hopefully he'll want we have a matching one. We want him to buy the matching one as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he likes this one. Everything else we sold was mostly jackets and sweaters and stuff.
A lot of stuff we just had for a long time. I think that's the thing. If you've been selling, or since we've been on eBay for 6 years now, and, it takes time for things to sell, I see our quality change, Like, we were really into clothes. We aren't so much into clothes anymore. It's not because clothes are bad to sell. It's just, it's more our interest, So it's weird just to kind of see when things take a while to sell. I'm like, man, I would never buy that again,
Well,
but at the time, it made sense.
Well, at the time, you just have, I don't want to say you have blinders on, but there was just like certain stuff. It was shoes, it was coats, it was sweaters. That is what, so we would go to the flea market. And there would be days where we were just like, I couldn't find anything. But as soon as we opened our eyes to other things, that's all we saw. It was like, there's so much stuff at this flea market. Like, I can't buy enough. Like, there's too much at the flea market. But I just think it's that's the beautiful thing about eBay, I think, is you can shift your focus instantly.
Yeah, anytime.
Instantly.
Right, like 1 week you're all about like mugs, and then the next week suddenly you're into like pipe holders, And
you can do that.
Right.
And you can phase stuff out. You're like, okay, well, I did 100 mugs. They're great. I don't want to ship those anymore. You should, because mugs sell great, crazy enough. But it's so nimble like that. Like, we just shifted our focus into like just other stuff instantly, and there's no one there to tell you can't do that. That's so cool.
And I think that's one reason why we like selling on eBay, is that it gives you that flexibility. Like, no one cares that our store has the craziest, all kinds of stuff. It doesn't matter, because all it is just a bunch of search terms,
Right. Yeah, and we've gotten questions about that a few times recently. Should I open another store just for clothes and just for antique books or whatever? And it's like, just put it all on one account. You sell interesting, eclectic, antique and vintage stuff. That's it. Good. Go for it. Nobody cares what your store is called. They just want the best price at the best quality, and you'll ship it to them. That's it.
So just some news that came out was that PayPal is now being split from eBay. I've read some articles about it. To me, it just seems more like of a stockholder kind of thing, just to...
Well, it was, what's his name? Carl Icahn?
Icahn, yeah.
Icahn.
Well, he had suggested it, but I mean, I think net to us, I don't see it affecting anything, and if it does, you just kind of roll with it,
I mean, if anything, you would think that after this change, eBay would start accepting Google payments, start accepting Amazon payments. I mean, if they're a separate company and they're wanting to, reach out to the widest audience, that could very well be the case.
Maybe, but I guess from our experience, eBay is a very slow, it's moving company, so I think any changes will happen down the road.
They take a while.
And just like anything, like, we don't really stress about any of this stuff. I mean, when things change, sometimes it's a pain in the ass, but we just kind of flow with it.
I mean, it's like we always kind of say, I understand that eBay changes a lot, and it is a pain, because it's like growing pains. You're like, what? The whole defect rate thing. Oh my God. But I'm still making like so much money every week. It's incredible. So why would I stop?
I mean, like, if I looked at the e-commerce Bytes website, which seems very angry at eBay, and then I just look at my its numbers each week. I mean, e-commerce Bytes is telling me that it's all a failure, and then I look at its numbers, and they're they're very positive. So just, I look at what's real, and what's real is how much we actually sell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know the summer was very slow, but that did not keep me from continuing on.
Yeah, and then things we learned in the comments on the blog over at scavengeralife.com is people have been saying some really nice things about us. People are very nice, and we appreciate that. I hope we can keep some people company while they're out there.
Packing.
Listing, yeah.
I'm going to have to listen back to our podcast while I'm packing.
Yeah.
Just to motivate me, because I'm going to be like seriously in like a packing bubble. I'm going to shut my office door.
Yep.
I'm going to put on some music. I'm going to make a cup of coffee.
I'll probably be cutting grass.
It'll be like mowing 6 weeks worth of grass at 2 houses.
Yep. To me, it just proves that just being ourselves is worth something, you know.
Like, people recognize that.
Yeah, I mean, or just anybody. I just think like anyone could do this, and I think it's just as long as it's yourself.
Yes.
That's what people appreciate, rather than like this idea that when you do a podcast or a video, you got to be like a TV promoter or a whatever. I think
a personality.
I think the people we like are the people who are just authentic. So
yeah.
I've actually been listening, so I'm really, again, FBA. I'm so into FBA.
You're into it, like you think it's gonna be cool.
It's just I'm so into the idea. I mean, because it's just like it's there's so much on YouTube where people talk about FBA, and so I really been watching a lot of these videos, or actually I listen to them because there's really long videos. And
it's just a face, it's a head.
I don't need to watch these people talk. I just like turn it on and I hear them, and people are very open about what's going on.
Yeah.
I still don't really see very many people putting it's numbers. I think that's what I really crave is like, you know, people say like I'll sell 400 items in a month, or, you know.
What was the profit?
Or, I'll sell 50 things a day. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But like, what's your actually profit, you know?
I heard we were watching a video or listening to a video today, and there was someone saying they were making like $4,100 a month.
She was talking about on eBay.
Oh, on eBay, okay.
We were hearing the person who sold on eBay was starting on FBA, and she said she sold, it's $4,100 a month on eBay, and she was asking this other person if she thought she could make that much on Amazon.
On Amazon, yeah.
But again, you know, I think that those kind of things are really helpful for the cover.
Yeah, the numbers.
Yeah, I'd love to know that. Because really, and also I just wonder when people talk about, like, they sold on eBay and then they got sick of it and they started selling on the FBA and they love it. And I'm just wondering, like, what's the thing that they really love? Is it just that they no longer have to go and spend as much time, like, scavenging, you know?
Well, I don't think it's less time scavenging. I think it's you don't talk to the customer. Mm-hmm. You don't deal with returns. You don't have to deal with talking to the customer about returns. FBA does all the fulfillment, obviously.
Sure.
There's a lot of work in scavenging and in preparing it for FBA. Those are the things. I still think it's the same amount of work.
I don't know.
I don't know, though.
Sometimes I feel like maybe people get tired of having to go out and really find stuff, and they just get to go to, I don't know, stores or something, and they're just scanning, and then they find a clearance item, and then they buy like 50 of these things, and then they mail all those in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. I think we need to just try it and just see, because I don't know the answer.
We're definitely going to try it. We just haven't obviously been able to since we haven't been home. Yeah. Just, it's endlessly fascinating.
It is. It's amazing because it's really, I don't know if FBA is like new in the past couple of years, because it's really exploding. Like, I hear about it.
It's been around for a little while, but it's definitely in the past couple of years that just the talk around it is just
There's
extreme.
A lot of talk.
Just everyone, I mean, again, I think that's why I've just been so skeptical, because when everyone's just like, it's so amazing, I'm just a little skeptical, because if it's that amazing, I find like, if everyone started doing it, then...
It's too good to be true or something.
And like this one girl talked about it. She was like, I went to a Walmart, I looked on its clearance, I scanned an item, I could buy it for $5 and then sell it for $30 on Amazon FBA.
It was $18 on Amazon, yeah.
No. It was more than that on Amazon.
Oh, it was more?
It was like $30, and then she said by the time she actually bought it all,
that was her
packed it up and mailed it in, the price had gone down to $18 because everyone had the same idea.
Everyone went to Walmart.
So at the moment, there weren't a lot of people up. By the time she got it in, all these other people had bought the same thing and mailed it in, and the price was coming down. So I think that's the other thing that gets a little
I didn't
tricky.
even think of that because it's so different with especially what we sell.
Right.
Because there might be a couple other of a similar vintage item, but maybe you have a better quality.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know. I just really always have to give a shout out to the people who are out there scavenging, finding the unique items. I mean, not only do we think it's cool, but just the fact that you're able to, I mean, I just don't know how people could turn down the fact that you can buy things for $1 and sell for 75.
Yeah, like that profit is unheard of.
Right.
Anywhere.
Right.
Mostly.
But I do understand though, and maybe that's why FBA is so attractive, is that it's hard to do that in the sense like it just takes time, it takes time to find those little places where you can find those items, you know? And I know we have people on the blog just say in their area, auctions, flea markets, estate sales either don't exist or they get shopped or there's too much competition. There's too many people out there buying it and they can't get it. It's for cheap.
Yeah.
So then FBA might just be the thing.
It's just different areas, different things that you want to do. Basically, it's like we always say, whatever you can find that other people in your area don't think is worth anything, that's what you sell, if you can get into that kind of thing, whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's our motto.
What's that?
Just finding stuff that other people don't think is valuable around us,
That's right.
So that's a scavenger.
Yeah, I mean, I guess basically we've just kind of let scavenging give us the answer. We just go out, and if something's cheap
and interesting,
we're like, let's sell that.
Sometimes it's cheap and not interesting, and it still sells, But mostly something's gotta, be interesting to you in order for you to basically have a fulfilling life. Mm-hmm. Like, if I have a bunch of crap that I think is like horrible, I have some stuff like that that's just sitting. I obviously need to lower the prices. I have been lowering prices on some things, I will say, that I've had for a while, that I'm like, maybe that was too high. And stuff is sold. So that's good.
Yeah.
I had a bunch of rangefinder cameras. And some of them sell for a lot of money. And mostly, like, the cream of the crop of stuff that I had sold really fast, like, basically 2 years ago. And everything else has just sat there. So I've lowered the price, and I sold 2 cameras.
I think that was an example of we didn't know enough about cameras to know which ones sold for a lot and which ones didn't sell for a lot.
And it really depends on the lens. Mm-hmm. Like, I have some rangefinder cameras that are beautiful, but they have, like, a generic, like, not very fancy lens, so nobody cares.
Yeah, people.
They want the lens.
Yeah, Zeiss lens.
Right, like the Carl Zeiss lens. If you don't have that, they're just like, nah. I lowered a few of them to $24.99, and I sold 2 of them, so I made $50 on something that was just sitting. So
yeah, and plus the longer an item's in the store, it starts to become whatever profit you can get.
Yeah,
is good.
It's like free money almost because I want to like throw them away
because that work we had done on them was a long time ago. So
well, and the other thing too is it's this box sitting in our storage area and it's taking up so much room. I'm like, I just want to get rid of that thing. So it's working.
Yep. So I guess the last thing I wanted to talk about today was, so being in Amsterdam and then talking to Mark in our last interview, our friend, where he's kind of talking about kind of a change in his life. He's trying to figure out what he's doing.
Right.
I was thinking about my own life. Because before I met you, I had been in Europe. I traveled to Amsterdam. I lived here for about 1.5 years or so.
You didn't live in Amsterdam. You lived in Europe.
Yep.
Throughout Europe. You traveled.
Right.
Yeah.
I worked and I traveled. And,
yeah.
And it just made me think, so it was like in my 20s was all about like exploring.
Right.
Trying things out. Working really shitty jobs.
Like you're washing dishes.
Yeah, I mean, just, and making, at the time, I guess back then it was, like
$3 an hour?
No, I'm not that old.
That was like when you were a little kid.
Yeah, it was like $6 an hour,
okay.
And then, I never really thought it was important to make money,
Yeah. Well, but I think because we come from basically like Generation X, where we're just like, fuck it. like just get by and travel Europe and just like
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, that's like a whole mentality of like the 90s,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it was the 80s
Right.
and then it was the 90s.
I guess it was just like I didn't want to ever be stuck, so I was willing to like, do whatever. And then like it was in my 30s is when I kind of cleaned house, I like went to therapy and like dealt with issues I had.
Yeah.
And
how old were you when I met you? 31?
I was 31.
Yeah, okay. So
actually I was just kind of getting...
Yeah, thank God. We met at the right time.
You kind of saw me when I was actually not so weird and
I
crazy.
think that's probably why we got together, because you weren't crazy.
Yeah. Just
and
like,
me too.
Being in my early 30s, just having no money at all, it's just... Not that money is so important now, but I guess it's... Sure, the people who are older than us will just be laughing at us right now. But, I just think as anyone grows older, you realize, like, you got to have its money to be comfortable. And so, now that I'm in it's 40, so I'm just turned 42, it's recently. I mean, it's I think the way I see it now is, like, in the next 10 years, we're doing it, We're working hard. Yeah. We're investing. We're making its money.
Yep. And then we don't have to do it anymore.
That's really kind of it, Like it's disciplined now. Yeah. We have kind of like a smooth running engine. Right. And we're learning about what we enjoy in life. Yeah. And really kind of like those are big things. A lot of people don't know what makes them happy. And I think we've kind of figured out some of what does it's make us happy. And that's a big thing.
Well, I think something that you said was as you get older, you realize you have to have money to be comfortable, and I don't think that's necessarily how you meant to put it, but I think as you get older you realize you can make money work for you the way you want it to. Yeah. So that, I mean, this is just my own experience, is you don't have to make money so you can drive a Mercedes. You can make money because you want to buy a foreclosure, because you actually don't want to pay rent anymore. Right. And you don't want to live in your dad's basement anymore, because that's actually what we were doing. You realize that money is not evil. It's that you can turn money into things like, coming to Europe for a month. It's more practical, it's not like you have to be some like corporate. Yeah,
or it's before as I had this weird notion that if I had to make its money, it was going to be, I'd have to do all these things I hated. Right. In order to do that.
Right.
And I just
hate your job.
I'm just really grateful for the fact that, selling on eBay, we've learned, like, I can enjoy what I do and feel good about it. And make it's money, and not only money to survive, but enough money to
thrive.
Yes. And to put into other projects. Right. It's really...
Well, and what's great is the fact that, and this is true for our video business too, but that we've been able to work together. Mm-hmm. Because we actually met this other guy who's a young guy who just got married, who just bought a condo, and he was doing video work with us, a different kind of video work. And he was like, I wish my wife could be here with me. That's amazing. And we were just like, kind of just offhandedly like, oh, we've been here for like, this is like our 4th week here. And he was like, what? That is so cool. I can't believe you can do that. And it kind of like snapped back to me where I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. Like, it's cool that we've been able to make this work for us. We've really tried, like, we want to make this work for us.
Right. It was probably a couple of years ago when we started talking about this idea. We both love to live in different places. Yeah. And we wanted to do this, and it worked. It's for it, and like the ability to come and stay here for
a month. Yeah,
a month is kind of the start of the way we would like to have our lives. Yeah, other people can have the fancy cars. That's cool.
I don't need a fancy car at all.
We want to do stuff like this where we can come and live somewhere.
Yeah, that's more important to me.
And really be kind of carefree. It's really a nice feeling.
It is a funny, like, I feel really fancy sometimes because I just like, being able to be here for 5 weeks and travel all over the world is great.
And I guess this thinking also happened because, people know I read this blog. It's It's Money on Mustache.
Yeah, which is a great name.
It's a funny name. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's like... he's a really, like, got a huge following.
He's probably a little younger than I am. He's probably, like, in his late 30s. Yeah. And he's totally crazy in the sense, like, had a vision when he was young.
Yeah.
Like in his
Very
early 20s, and he was disciplined, all the things I never was. And so he's basically kind of retired, you know, and he's got a wife and a kid, and they just leave and they live the life they want to live. But he has this post that I'll link to on the blog where he talks about how people, especially in America, are so crazy how they think they need more than they need. Because there's this, because I know my dad definitely has this mentality, you know, being a boomer, about how much he needs to retire. You know, this idea like, you know, he needs to save $150,000 a year for every year he's retired. So he needs like $2 million.
Yeah.
And it's just so crazy when really, if you think about it, especially if you have your home paid off, you really only need
minimal expenses.
$30,000?
Yeah, minimal. I mean, really, like, that is not a joke. That is that you can do that.
Right. I mean,
that's what Mr. Money Mustache does.
Right.
And those are his numbers.
And I don't know how, I mean, maybe other people have like lives where you're really, where people like really live extravagantly. But I know it's for us, $30,000 is about,
if there's no,
our expenses, you know.
Yeah, if there's no like massive debt.
Yeah. So
you should
once we get that into our head, then it's really the whole idea of retirement and all that just becomes so much different, you know. You don't need to save several $1 million to feel comfortable.
It's a different mentality, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm going to put that link up there because I think that's a really interesting way to think about like planning for the future, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so this week we had some questions that were sent in to us. Obviously, you can go to the blog at scavengeriatlife.com and you can just jump into the comments.
There's a lot of comments going on. Like, so many comments that during this work week, I could not even read them all. I had to read them, like, at night when we were in bed.
And it was nice.
Like, really crazy.
You know, I always try and answer everything, but it's great when other people are answering its questions, so I'm just like, okay, that question's answered.
It was so funny. There were so many times where I was like, oh, I really need to answer that. Oh, 3 people already answered it for me. Even better than I could have.
Yeah, it's good. And most of it's very positive and useful. Okay, so the first question is it's My Chocolate Lab.
Can you please share your experiences in regards to voiding a shipping label and getting reimbursed for it? I recently had an issue where my computer was having problems printing, so I had to create a second label. I tried to void the first one, but it said it couldn't, and to try again later. I thought the email said I had 120 days to void it, but it was actually 120 hours, so now it's too late. Okay, so yes, you have 120 hours to void a shipping label, and just make sure you don't actually use that shipping label, because once it gets scanned by the USPS, it will not get voided. The other thing too I just want to note is if you have problems printing, you've already paid for that label, and you can print a label. eBay should email you and be like, you printed this label, and there's a link at the bottom that's like reprint. So you should try to reprint that when you're not having printing problems, like the next day before the post office person comes. That's what I do, because I'm like, I already paid. I don't want to have to void this. But the good thing is, it sounds like you had a problem and you had to do a second label. So voiding the first label is never usually a problem as long as it doesn't get scanned, and they will reimburse you in about 15 days. That's the max I've ever, and they email you, USPS has, refunded you, $7, and that's, 15 days later, they've always done it. They've never rejected it for me. So don't be worried about that. They will give you your money back.
So its next question is from Ike Boy. He says, I see when listing items, the option for a UK site, its visibility is available for an extra, it's 50 cents. If I'm already shipping worldwide, does that mean I'm not listed in England? Is it worth it to pay that extra 50 cents?
So number one, no, it is not worth it, because you nailed it right on the head. You're already shipping worldwide. People in the UK will see your stuff no matter what. I think that is a very old thing from a long time ago that's still there, and I think some people still pay for it, and eBay's making a ton of money on it,
Right.
and you don't need it.
Right. I think that they just haven't taken that option away because that had been up there. It's before there was
Like a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, when there was like, now there's like ebay.eu and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
and I think everybody's listings just pretty much go there if you ship there. If you ship to the UK, people in the UK are going to see it. That's just how, like, if I'm searching for something very special, stuff from Canada, stuff from UK, stuff from China, it all comes up in the same place. So you should be visible to them.
And, we've talked about this, before. I mean, for a while there, eBay was the place.
Right.
Where if you wanted to sell something online, you sold it on eBay.
Right.
So eBay was making all this money on listing fees and all these extra fees, and those days are gone. I mean, eBay has so much competition now. I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they just made it free to list on eBay.
We think that's going to happen.
Just like Amazon does. It's free to put an item up, and they just make its money when it sells.
Right.
I think eBay is going to do that soon. I feel just because there's too many people out there, too many companies that are trying to get eBayers,
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be to their advantage because I don't think they make that much on the listing fees in comparison to final value fees. Okay, Dave M says, it would be nice to hear a comparison of third-party sites such as Octiva, Inkfrog, and Seller Sourcebook.
So the only reason why we why we read this comment or its question is really just because we don't use any of that stuff. And I guess we just wanted to make that clear that, we're full-time people on eBay.
I just use eBay.
We make a living on eBay, and all we do is we just list through the actual site.
I don't even use garage sale. I don't use anything. I just list right on the site.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm cheap as hell. I don't want to pay
I'm not
for
sure
anything
what
else.
the upside is to sell through these third-party sites where you have to pay a monthly fee. Like, I'm not sure what
advantage
what
there is.
benefit it gives you.
So if anyone's using those things, I would love to hear why they use them, why it makes it better for them to sell on eBay. Like, what's the advantage for them?
Right. I mean, and so you can just go to our blog and just, put in a comment. I'd love to hear that.
Okay, so Merchandise Matchmaker says eBay is knocking down my rating and claiming that my tracking ratio for timely shipments is at 90%. According to the reports that a seller can generate, I'm at 100% for the last 6 months. This has only been in the last 6 weeks or so. What gives, and is anyone else having this issue? I'll be calling them about it.
I mean, yeah, I think our question would just be, if you're really always sending an item out the next day, or at least doing as label, it's within 24 hours, you should definitely call eBay. I'm not sure why.
If your seller report is different than what they're saying, I mean, you have to ask them, where's the discrepancy? Like, why are these two different numbers?
I think the other question, too, would be is that if you don't have a lot of items being sold every month, that 90% can be hit really easily. So if you only sell 20 things in a month, if you don't ship 2 of those items, then you're already at 90. So maybe just also look at its numbers and see if you're being clear.
Yeah, but definitely I would love to hear what the answer is when eBay calls them. If you're seeing 2 different numbers, that's odd.
Yeah, I mean, I've never, in all of our time of being on eBay, I've never actually seen an incorrect number on eBay.
Right.
Like, we've never seen, I mean, there have been numbers that I don't like,
Or there have been lots of times where I'm reading it wrong.
Right.
Where I'm looking at it and being like, that doesn't sound right. Oh, I was like totally reading that number wrong.
Right.
So.
But I've never actually seen, for us at least, a number that was just totally wrong.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't go through, that thing they give you at the end of every month where they tell you how much you owe them, because it's
a massive
it's very
list.
long. But I don't feel like I've ever been overcharged. I mean,
No, I haven't either. And in fact, I've seen discounts that I didn't even know I was getting. So that's been my experience.
So I feel confident that eBay is pretty much a straight, is an even place
to
be on. But if you're confused about anything, you should call, ask everything until that answer is clear. You know?
Yeah, I think definitely call them. Don't dread calling them. Just call them. Okay, someone named Shubby G says, do you utilize listing software or HTML templates available from eBay or other sources, or have you developed your own? Yes, I wrote my own HTML template just because I'm a web designer, so I was able to do that, and that's what I use.
And, and we've talked about this multiple times. People buy templates, and then there's a lot of people who just say eBay doesn't like templates anymore, the HTML, so don't use them. If this question is being asked because a person's new and wants to know how to actually start, just list normal without any templates. Just start to list.
Just do it. Don't make it complicated.
Take pictures with eBay mobile and just start doing the best that you can. I
mean, we started that way. I didn't have a template. I didn't have anything. We were just getting stuff up as much as we could. Probably
for the first 2 years, we had just an iPhone.
An iPhone 1, where the photos were not great.
Yeah, and that's all our business was. I just see too many people, they want to get started, and they're like, okay, I need to get an LLC.
Oh my God.
I need to, get this template.
Yeah.
I need to get, this really expensive camera. It's almost like they put all these things in their way because they don't really want to get started.
Yeah.
They just want to, I don't know, feel like they're going to start a business without actually having to do it. And
Jay had to convince me over years to buy a nicer camera. It took you forever to convince me to spend money on a nicer camera.
Only because I found it's nice one for half price.
For half price, because it was used.
And it was a good choice.
It was great. I love our camera. Yeah. I love it. We've used it for many years, and it's a workhorse. So it's a Panasonic GH1. We love it. Zach asks, please do an episode talking about how you were able to make video work connections in Amsterdam. Also, how do you manage to make an art consignment connection? Well, the thing about Amsterdam is the work we're doing is for a client in the United States. Right. They just happen to have events all over the world.
But, I think he's asking, he's like, I'm at home. I want to do these things. I'd love to have a job in Amsterdam, and, how do I find someone that wants nice art? So, the thing is, we didn't plan any of this. None of this stuff is
every single thing we've done that has gotten us to this point right now was completely by chance. So,
and I think I talked to other people who sell on eBay who, have been at it for a while and are good at it. I think they'll say the same thing. Once you just start doing the work and getting it yourself out there,
you make connections with people.
You just make, people recognize that you're good at what you do, and they want to be a part of that. And that's true with selling eBay, with if you work in whatever, any kind of job, So that's why I think we always just say, like we just said, just get started.
Just do stuff.
Just start doing it. Instead of waiting for, God, I feel like some kind of inspirational person. I don't want to be that. You just got to get started.
That's the only answer is we just do stuff. People think we do cool work and they want to hire us. And we say yes or we say no.
Yeah.
Depending on the job.
Yeah, and and we talk about this. It's sometimes what if it all stops? And it could. It could.
There's been times where we had no video work. We did not have a single video work, and that's when we started our eBay business. Yeah. So that just we had to do something.
I think the only thing that doesn't change is just working hard.
Yeah.
That's
exactly
all we do. Okay, next is from Monique.
She says, shipping hats. I'm looking into adding hats to my inventory on my eBay store, but I wonder how the best way to ship them so they don't get crushed or damaged. Maybe the priority mail shoebox. Yes, if you don't want your hats to get crushed, like a fedora, I ship them in priority mail boxes for whichever size. Jay has this crazy Rangers hat it's a scout hat that he bought. It's in that video that we made. And, I'll put that in a large 12 by 12 box. It's only going to weigh a pound, but it won't get crushed. I'll put it in there and I'll wrap it in a plastic bag.
How about a cowboy hat?
Same thing. Cowboy hat, if they fit in the 12 by 12 or whatever big box I can find, you just charge a person for a pound, priority mail. because you can't ship it any other way. It'll get crushed. Baseball hats, depending on the hat, people were talking on the blog, if it's one of those new, like, you know, new era, you know.
Some of those guys love it.
They want the fit
because it's like perfectly straight. So
for those ones, I would put them in a little box, like a 7x7x6 or something, or a shoe box, because it'll fit in there, and it weighs a pound. Or for the trucker hats, because they're mostly like foam and mesh, they're really durable. I just throw them in a poly mailer. I wrap them in a plastic bag and throw them in a poly mailer. You know, they weigh like 4 ounces and you can ship them first class. And I've never gotten a single complaint about those.
Because it's normally they're like the frat boy kind of hats where people bend them anyway.
Yeah, and the trucker hats are usually have that foam, so it bounces right back. That's the beauty of those. So they are crushable and they're fine. So that's how I ship them.
Cool. So thanks for being on our show. Is that the right way to say it?
I don't think we're the only ones on the show, but they listened.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being with us this week. And, you know, you can subscribe to us by email on the blog, or you can subscribe to us on iTunes. And this podcast we put out on Mondays.
And Wednesdays.
And we do one on Wednesdays. Although it's going to be interesting to see what we do on Wednesdays, since we fly home tomorrow and then we start packing. And so
it's going to be packing insanity.
It's maybe we'll do some podcasts where you're packing and talking at the same time, you know?
Yeah, that would actually be interesting. Like, what has it been like to pack 80 items? Oh, Jesus.
That'd be super nerdy. Okay.
Pretty nerdy.
Anyway, have a good week.
We're ending this podcast in 3, 2, 1.